All right, Fresh, let's travel to the state of Alabama and Jordan-Hare Stadium. The UGA Bulldogs are traveling to Alabama. Deep South's oldest rivalry, or good old-fashioned hate, whichever one this one is.
Deep South Souls. Deep
Okay.
South.
Yeah, that's Georgia Tech is good old-fashioned hate. So,
Yep.
Georgia right now, time of record, is a 14.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 46.5 points here, Fresh. I'll let you go first. You're a Georgia fan. I'll give my take
Well,
here in a second.
first off, full disclosure, I hate Auburn. Um, they they're number 2 on the rivalry list behind Florida, but I hate Auburn, and I really took the point in 2010 with Nick Fairley's dirty late hit on Aaron Murray, and it just went from a fun family kind of rivalry to downright disgust. Jordan Hare is uh, a mystic place of voodoo where crazy things happen. Whether it doesn't matter what team goes in there, if you're going to that stadium, weird things happen. That crowd, that fan base is raucous. It is a very intense environment, and weird things just seem to happen and go the Tigers' way from time to time. So this is always a game that I don't care how bad Auburn is, and they're pretty terrible. Um, it's one of those places where like you just don't you feel very uneasy when your team makes a trip there. Um, Georgia's injury list is about the size of a CVS receipt, but the thing is, you can't use that as an excuse because you're Georgia and you've had a top 3 recruiting classes for the past 6-7 years. You're 2-time defending champions. The fact that you can't let injuries be an excuse. You already have the depth. You've got to have the coaching. You've got to be able to figure it out. That should not be a problem here, and that should be in play. Um, some people might use that as an excuse, but injuries don't matter. You've got to play the football game. You've got to roll with what you got. And with your development and the way the program is right now, you shouldn't have too much of an issue finding players that want to step up and play for the team and play within the system and get it done. So there are injury concerns, but that should not be a reason why you win or lose a football game because you should have the depth to be able to cover that. Carson Beck in that offense, Carson Beck has shown significant progress up to this point. If you look at his stats, he's actually one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the conference. And compared to where Stetson Bennett was exactly through 4 games last year, they have the exact same stats. Running attack, Georgia rushing, the exact same stats as last year through the first 4 games. So take it for what you want. The offense is it might look clunky at times, or you have expectations that are different, but they've been able to sort of manage through. Now, with that said, this is Carson Beck's first road start ever. And it's coming not in a neutral site. This is the first time outside of Sanford Stadium where he is getting a start. How does he handle the road environment? How does he handle the noise, the adversity that's going to come, the trash talking when he's out there warming up? You are now in the spotlight, and everyone, all 80 plus thousand of them, are going to be yelling at you the entire time. How do you handle yourself? Keep your composure, make your reads, and make your throws in an uncomfortable environment. It's not an easy place to play. There are many veteran quarterbacks who've gone in there, including Bryce Young, and have struggled for many quarters and had to find ways to get wins in the end or made bad throws. This is an environment you've got to be able to control, and the way you control it is by putting up points early and shutting them up. If you struggle early, it just gets louder and louder and louder. It's like any time on the road, I don't care where you go, there are just certain places that are very hostile. We've talked about how many times Iowa is a very hostile environment, especially at night. You go to places where the team might not be very good, but the environment makes the team better. It's really weird. Um, and that's where situation you've got to be able to manage yourself and keep your composure and let your offense, let your coaches play with you on the same page. If you try to do too much and take it into yourself, you're going to crumble. Trust your linemen, trust your running backs, trust your coaches, trust your receivers, and in turn, they need to trust you and you trust them, and that's how you sort of survive road environments. Um, Home games are one thing, road games are another, and that's what I really want to see from Carson Beck and his offense. There's a lot of young guys who are also going to be dressing. Now, one thing, I don't know if people know this, you might not. In conference games, when you travel, you have a limited roster. You don't get to have 100 guys on the sideline. You've got to figure out who's going to make the trip and who's actually going to dress in conference play. So that comes into the factor of Ladd McConkey has not played, has not dressed so far this season. Is he healthy enough to be worthy of a roster spot, to be able to contribute all 4 quarters in a big game? Or do you hold him out and keep him at home for next week versus Kentucky? That's a key thing the staff, the coaching staff's got to figure out. Who is healthy enough and who can contribute to make a road start and be able to bring on this trip? You can't bring in everybody. You've got to be able to figure out your game plan depending on the players you have. Who's the running back situation? Edwards has been playing real well. Robinson's been playing well. Bell's had some success back there. Cash Jones has had some success. That's 4 running backs. You can't really deal with an injury. How do you manage that road roster? How do you build a game plan to support your quarterback and support your team with the limitations you have? That comes right there to coaching and how you figure out how you're going to use your players in the best possible way to be successful on Saturday afternoon. Georgia's defense has been playing pretty good. They have not really shown much except late in fourth quarters they've given up some touchdowns. How do they play a complete game? They haven't played one yet. Pass rush has been there from time to time, but how do they play a complete 4-quarter football game? We have not seen that from this Georgia defense. Now, obviously, the standard of the previous years has been so high. They are not obviously living up to that perspective. Do they have a chance right now this Saturday to show up and maybe get it done? Or do we start seeing continued youth from this team who's not actually executing at the same highest level? Interesting something to watch. Obviously, Auburn's offense is probably one you want to be able to get kind of a get right game. We'll see how it happens because Auburn's offense is pretty rough. They have quarterback, O-line, wide receiver issues, but their running back depth is pretty solid. They've scored 14 and 10 this year versus Power 5 teams, but they scored 59 and 45 versus UMass and Samford, respectively. Auburn has not thrown for more than 100 yards in their last 5 Power 5 SEC matchups. Power 5 games, excuse me. Will this week be the 6th? During those Power 5 games, they have a completion percentage of 43.9%. Their quarterback play has been downright awful. Will it be Robbie Ashford? Will they continue to go with Peyton Thorne? They played 3 quarterbacks last week and threw 56 yards versus A&M. They've got to figure something out. Hugh Freeze, you're an offensive guy. You were brought here. Which of these quarterbacks, how can you figure this out? I know it's only been 4 games, 5 games, but you've got to get yourself in a situation to play. I think this Saturday we see Robbie Ashford get a lot more playing time than he has so far for Auburn. He runs, he's a little more mobile, creates more with his legs, gives the defense something else to look at because Peyton Thorne is a statue back behind center. He came from Michigan State. He's going to throw, but he can't move. And that's why he's going to take a lot of hits. I think they're going to play Ashford a lot, use his mobility, use a lot of motions, a lot of try to, window dressing to create confusion in the backfield. They might even put both quarterbacks on the field at the same time. I don't underestimate Hugh Freeze to get creative and dive into his bag because they're going to have to be tricky. This is a rivalry game. It means a lot to Auburn. It means a lot to Georgia. And if those fans want to pull up an upset, be celebrating and rolling some toilet paper on trees at the end, they're going to have to come out with some very unorthodox offensive approaches for Auburn to score points against Georgia. So I expect a lot of trick plays, a lot of weird formations, a lot of back window dressing, a lot of shifts late offensively to create confusion for a Georgia defense. This is going to have to be Hugh Freeze's probably best coaching effort. Hey, he took Ole Miss and beat Alabama 2 years in a row. This might be a chance for him, maybe not this year, but he can start setting the standard that Auburn can actually beat Georgia going forward. But he's going to have to be able to come up with some serious offensive creativity to get it done. You can't be vanilla. You can't be stale if you want to beat anyone in the league or anyone in any conference, much less a 2-time defending national champion. You've got to find ways to open up and really push the limits of an offense so that it can be explosive and be creative. And I expect Georgia's defense should be on alert at all times for any kind of fakes, any kind of weird formations, any kind of weird looks, maybe even wildcat formations where Jaquez Hunter, the running back, the lead back, is just taking direct snaps and going. You've got to be prepared for anything. And that plays to Auburn's advantage. They have nothing to lose. They can pull everything out. Everyone already thinks they're terrible anyway. So whatever they do is an added bonus to create confusion, create it, and muck it up and make it a 4-quarter game. If they can keep the crowd in the football game the entire time, it makes it worse in the fourth quarter. If they get run out by halftime, that place is empty and it's done and becomes just a hole. They can do whatever they want and muck it up and make it ugly and make it really, really tough for a 4-quarter football game, which Georgia has. They had to play one versus South Carolina. If you start making them play more 4-quarter football games, I think the shine of this football team starts wearing off and people start realizing this isn't a 2-time defending champion. This is just a bunch of players who are on that squad, but this is a completely different football team. And how do you take away that mystique as well? I don't think Auburn has the talent to beat Georgia, but crazy things do happen. Georgia's 0-4 against the spread so far this season. If this was 14 or less, I'd really, really like the Dogs to cover. 14.5 puts you on edge, but I think the Dogs win by 17 or 20. They find a way to cover. just barely, maybe even a backdoor cover late in the fourth quarter. Dogs win 47 points. That requires Auburn to score. I will take the over in this football game. I think Kirby and the Dogs, they have to showcase that they are still here. And if they have a chance, they're going to pour it on to keep the attention on them. I think the first half will be slow because Georgia's started off slow every single game so far this season. But they've outscored opponents 56-0 in the third quarter. And that's where the game will turn into the second half. And they will finish it off and dominate toward the end. But Auburn will make them fight in the first half. And it will probably be a sign of things to come for Auburn's sake that they do have some talent there. And Hugh Freeze knows what he's doing at least a little bit, but Georgia wins in the end.
Fresh. Listen, if I'm Auburn, I'm quoting Lou Brown right now from Major League. Listen, every newspaper in America is picking Auburn to lose this game and probably finish pretty badly. It would be better if they just make everyone's lives easier if they went out back and shot themselves. But, Auburn's probably there for wasting our time and wasting for other people's time. A wonderful quote by Lou Brown from Major League there. And, I kind of feel like Hugh Freeze is Lou Brown, and he's working out at Tire Kingdom, and they go, hey, how would you like to be the head coach of the Auburn Tigers? And he's like, I don't know. I got someone on the other line about some white walls. I'll get back to you on it. Auburn's crap. Okay, let's not like shine up a turd here and make it there. And again, this isn't to say anything bad about like the Auburn fans or anything like this, but no good football team changes their quarterback 3 times in a game. No one. You beat up on Samford. You beat up on UMass or whoever else you played. A joke of a program, and you want to like puff out your chest. Bring Cadillac Williams back. Bring Coach Cadillac back because he'd do a better job than Hugh Freeze on this one. I really think Auburn is in a rock and a hard place in this piece. And I don't know how like their fans are going to feel about this. And again, I hate to say that to a fan base that's so passionate like Auburn and to say like your team is not good. Your team is crap. Like this game should mean a whole lot more. And I know, Fresh, you're going to, again, as an outsider who's not involved in the rivalry, and everyone always like to put out like Jordan, the crazy things that happen at Jordan Air, and maybe I'm dead wrong. And listen, if I'm dead wrong, come back into the comments section and I'll take my lumps, man. Go ahead, eat me alive in the comment section. If Auburn wins this football game, go ahead, put me on blast. Keep your receipts. Go ahead and say it all they want. Go right ahead, because Auburn's not good. Auburn's not good. They're awful on third down. They're 3 for 15. They had 10 penalties last week. A&M had 7 sacks. Where is the talent in this football team? Someone please point to me and say like this. The wheels are about ready to fall off with Auburn. They go they got Georgia, they got LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State coming down the line here on their schedule there. And then, at the end of the season, they still got to deal with Alabama. I think Alabama's kind of starting to pick themselves off the mat. Auburn's about ready to go into at least a minimum 4-game losing streak. Now, I'm going to say something here else as well. Georgia, this has got to be your game. This has got to be your game. This past week, I started, when are we going to stop talking about Georgia from 21-22? 2 years ago, around this time, I want to say it was right after week 5, I watched Georgia just completely manhandle someone. I went on this show and I said, Georgia's going to be your national champions this year. They're going to end their drought. They'll win the national title. They're the best team I saw in college football. Saw it with my own 2 eyes. Gave them the respect, and sure enough, they pulled it off. Last year, again, seeing it, Georgia, you're going to be in the national title game. You're going to be one of the best. You are one of the best teams. I can't say that right now. I can't. And it's not meant as disrespect, but this Georgia team, again, it's kind of the same thing we're saying about Alabama. Something feels off. Something feels different. Carson Beck's been good. He's been good. Not great. Not terrible. He's been good. Georgia running backs. Georgia's supposed to be a running back factory. My favorite running back in the entire National Football League's from Georgia. I love Nick Chubb. He's my favorite player in the NFL. Georgia's running back, there's no Nick Chubb. There's no Todd Gurley. There's no Sony Michel on this team. Georgia's known for their running backs. Brock Bowers has been really good. Georgia has 17 first quarter points. 17 first quarter points on the season. They're okay. And that's the thing that scares me. Their schedule is UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, UAB. And you've scored 17 points in the first quarter. You've scored 79 points in the first half against those four teams. You should have a couple of C notes on them. Guys, this is where it really troubles me because I think Georgia has an issue here. And I think an early season schedule, an easy early season schedule is really hiding it from them. They're slow starters. And I'm going to tell you the truth. There's no one on your schedule that really can expose this right now. Florida? Nope. Kentucky? Maybe. We'll see about Kentucky this weekend. I doubt it. Missouri? Nope. Ole Miss? Nope. Tennessee, if they get their act together, but Tennessee's defense has got questions. I think that that's going to be a huge letdown long term because if you continue to start off slow and you make this a trend and you don't learn to really put the boots and put someone away real quick, like this team is capable of doing, again, when you win back-to-back national titles, expectations change exponentially for you. If we were talking about Tennessee and Tennessee was 4-0, or if we're talking about UCLA and UCLA's 4-0 and they're at this isn't a problem. You're 4-0. Great. Good job. You're looking good. You're not the defending national champions. If you want to be taken seriously in 23, you got to show you really need the style points here because I'm just going to say what everyone else is noticing. The SEC is down this year. It is noticeably down this year. And everyone who's sitting there saying the power, you don't have that to rely on anymore. And I'm worried that until Georgia really starts, you might need a Miami Dolphins 70-20 game to get the voters back on your side. Georgia wins. Georgia covers. I'm going with them. They're going to go, I say they win this game by 24. And that might be low.
This needs to be a get-right game. It has to. Because if there's still questions coming out of this football game, then it starts spiraling from there.
Yeah. I need to see something. I need to see establish a game plan in the first half and say, this is who we are. Well, I need a dominating performance.
Folks, obviously Seth's an Ohio State fan, but that Western Kentucky game, there were questions from McCord, and he came out and they dropped 70 on him. You need that one game where people look at the box score and they're like, oh my God, what just happened?
Right. And with Auburn here too, is that Auburn again, we've both deep dived into Auburn football here. Auburn's not good. Auburn's pretty bad. You're giving them a lot more respect than I will. And again, you do that in a rivalry game. It's your team fresh. It's your rivalry game there. You'll give your opponent much more respect than I will. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Like I said, I'll compare them to the Major League Indians right now. Or Guardians now, I guess. I got to call them that. But
the scary thing is they went to the pennant.
Yeah, but it took a long time to get to there. And they don't got no Jake Taylor or Ricky Vaughn on this team here.
They do not have Jake Taylor, Ricky Vaughn, or Willie Mays Hayes.
So, there you go. I'm going to move on to this.